now I want to transition over to the Essex Plan. And folks have probably heard about the Essex Plan. It's been in the news for a few weeks. It's a plan put out by the business community, including several VBSR members, folks like Danforth Pewter, Black River Produce, 7th Generation, and many others that we really thought was a way to break through some of the gridlock in the conversations about what's next for Vermont in environmental and clean energy regulation. So I'm actually going to Senator Chris Pearson, who I think everyone knows is a good friend of VBSR. We love working with him. He couldn't be here this morning, so we actually have a short video that we're going to play from Senator Pearson, and then I'm going to pass it over to Representative Sarah Copeland-Hanzis to talk about the Essex Plan. So hold on while I try this and see if this works.
Good morning, VBSR. First of all, let me thank Jane Campbell, Dan Barlow, and their great team for letting me participate by video today. I'm here at the Colchester Mead Hall, one of so many examples of Vermont's localized economy at work. Today we're going to be talking about how we can build on Vermont's buy local ethic and use it to help solve one of the greatest challenges we face. Last month, some VBSR members put forward an idea to reduce energy costs, cut climate pollution, and keep $1 billion in the local economy. It immediately grabbed my attention. Their Essex Plan, like any good business plan, will succeed because it builds on a competitive advantage, in this case, Vermont's clean electric supply. It will spur innovation by giving Vermont the cheapest electricity in the Northeast. It will create jobs because it encourages Vermonters to transition to low-carbon heating and transportation. That's why I'm excited to announce that several of my colleagues and I will be introducing legislation based on the Essex Plan. To share more about this and how you can help make it a reality, I'd like to turn it over to my friend from Bradford, Vermont Representative Sarah Copeland-Hanzis. Thanks a lot.
Well, that's a big thank you to Chris for that nice introduction, and also thank you to VBSR. Before I do that, though, I want to talk to you a little bit about where I'm from. This is a picture taken in Bradford. Bradford is, how many of you have been to Bradford? I see you all shop at Farmway. So we're a rural town on the New Hampshire border. We, like many rural towns in Vermont, are seeing an aging population and population decline. We also have the competition from tax-free New Hampshire, which you're looking at in half of that picture. That's the beautiful part of New Hampshire, right there. Many of my constituents, though, drive 35 miles to get to work. Down in White River Junction or in West Lebanon, New Hampshire. And so there are challenges to folks living in rural parts of Vermont, like Bradford. Like many of you, I grew up in a small business. So Copeland Furniture is my parents' company. They've been making furniture in Bradford for over 40 years. And I'm a small business owner myself. I have a cafe on Main Street. I like to fuel the workers who go to the factory with ample amounts of caffeine. But my parents have been running a furniture factory in Bradford, and you can all appreciate the challenges of a global market, the challenge of competing in a manufacturing industry in this day and age. And when you run a business that uses as much electricity as Copeland Furniture does, you have to be looking at new ways to trim energy use and to trim those expenses. And so that's why Copeland Furniture has installed one of the largest solar arrays in Orange County, and in fact last year powered 40% of its operation using clean, locally sourced, and stably priced electricity generated here at home. So, you know, for Copeland Furniture, it was about the bottom line, and that's why I'm so excited to hear about this proposal from some of your members at VBSR for a plan that would really help all Vermonters be able to partake of this clean energy climate change initiative, and would be able to also access their locally sourced, stably priced, and clean electricity. My neighbors in Vermont feel vulnerable to the whims of pricing of fossil fuels in their transportation and in their heating. And honestly, the thing that's most exciting to me about this Essex Plan is the opportunity that it provides to protect Vermonters from the whims of a global oil market. For those of you who haven't had a chance to read the booklet, I wanted to take a few minutes to introduce to you the Essex Plan. And before I do that, you'll notice that I was sandwiched by two legislative members from Essex who are trying to get me to call it the Bradford Plan. However, the Essex Plan is called that not because of these guys. It's not about you guys. But actually because it is an economy-strengthening strategic energy exchange. And the Essex Plan has 4 key outcomes, and I would love to be able to run you through those, and do feel free to pick up one of the booklets if you'd like to see some of this in a bit more detail. First, the goal, the Essex Plan would deliver every Vermont household and every business clean electricity at the lowest rates in the region. Second, it would prioritize working class and rural Vermonters, putting more money in their pockets and helping them to also transition to this clean energy future. The plan would play an essential role in cutting our state's climate pollution. And, as Chris alluded to, this plan would keep about $1 billion circulating in the local economy in the next decade. So how does it work? The core components are very simple. Okay, we have a little spinny wheel here, so I'm going to give that a moment to... Swear to God, I didn't do anything to it. All right. Well, it's probably going to skip 5 slides ahead now that I've punched the button, so I'm just going to keep going while we wait and see if anybody wants to come and try to fix this. Anyway, so the core components are simple. We charge the companies that import fossil fuels into Vermont a price on the carbon pollution that's causing global warming. The Essex Plan proposal starts that carbon fee very low, about 4 cents a gallon of gas, if the fossil fuel importers are going to pass on that full price. And starting low really allows Vermont businesses and Vermont families to plan ahead and to make some energy-saving decisions. Over the next 8 years, the price of the fee would rise in small increments until it reaches what the Obama administration and what Bram Kleppner alluded to, which is the social cost of carbon. What is the impact that carbon has on our economy, on our health, and on our climate?
I'm doing a full reboot.
Is that a metaphor for what we're talking about?
Yes, it is.
Yes, reboot. There you go. Okay, so social cost of carbon. The plan also proposes topping out at the same carbon pollution fee that other states in New England are talking about in their legislation. So Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts are all driving towards this same carbon fee. What do we do with the revenue of this fee? This is where the Essex Plan is different and is exciting and refreshing. I think the word intriguing is a word that I've heard a lot of times when I've heard people talking about it. And that is that this plan would return 100% of those revenues back to Vermonters and Vermont businesses in the form of rebates for your clean electricity. So the Essex Plan is going to slash electricity costs for all Vermonters. And who doesn't like that? One reason the Essex Plan works is that it's designed for the Vermont context. So Vermont is decades ahead of other states in terms of decarbonizing our electricity supply. And this plan will help Vermont take advantage of that advantage. The Essex Plan makes sense for individual Vermonters, and it also makes sense for Vermont businesses. As your electricity rates would be slashed as well. Sort of.
Sort of. I made it work.
How does it work? Excellent.
All right, Dan.
Nicely done. Thank you. So it works by putting a price on carbon. You use the revenues from that to slash electricity rates for all Vermonters. But remember those 4 key outcomes. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the opportunity that the Essex Plan presents in each of those 4 slides. Number 1, delivering Vermonters clean electricity at the lowest rates in the region. A big reason the Essex Plan would be successful in cutting carbon pollution is that Vermont's electricity is already some of the cleanest in the nation, and it's getting cleaner. So as we transition from using more fossil fuels in our transportation and heating, the opportunity to use electricity means that we are reducing our carbon footprint. What the Essex Plan does is take that clean electricity and it makes it less expensive, the lowest in the region, in fact, and that's pretty exciting for energy-intensive businesses like mine and like Copeland Furniture. Under this plan, Vermont's electric rates would be cut by an average of 27%, and that would make us by far the lowest in New England. Under the Essex Plan, we're raising the price of dirty, polluting fossil fuels, and we'd simultaneously be lowering the price of clean, renewable electricity. But really, honestly, this only works if we prioritize rural and working Vermonters, the kinds of folks who live in my community. And so we need to make sure that this plan is a boost to working and rural Vermonters and allows them to get into this new climate economy with clean, locally sourced and stably priced power. So the second key aspect of the plan really is in the reduction on your electricity rates. Now, this is a sample for a residential electric bill for a low-income and rural Vermonter. This particular customer has a bill each month of $91. Under the Essex Plan, every Vermonter would receive a per kilowatt hour rebate, and this Vermonter's rebate would, in this scenario, be $13.80. This person is low income, so they would qualify for the low income rebate, and because they're rural, they would also get an additional rural rebate. And so under the proposal of the Essex Plan, every single month, this Vermonter would see a reduction in their electricity bill of nearly half. This is how we prioritize working in rural Vermonters and ensure that they have the money to be part of the clean energy transition. Let's look at the third aspect of this plan. The Essex Plan would play an essential role in cutting Vermont's carbon pollution. Here's a chart that you've probably all seen. For a decade, Vermont has had a bipartisan statutory greenhouse gas reduction goal, which then Senator Phil Scott and Republican Governor Jim Douglas both supported. But the truth is, despite this aggressive statutory goal, we're nowhere near reaching those goals. In fact, emissions are actually rising. And the trend that we're looking at for Vermont doesn't really look promising. So the Essex Plan is exciting in that it really helps us to change that trajectory. A price on carbon pollution might not be the only thing that will help us reach that goal, but it's certainly something that we have to consider in how we are able to reach the goals that we all agreed upon. Finally, the Essex Plan is one of the biggest buy local initiatives that we've ever considered. And this means a lot to me as a small business owner in Vermont. So right now we spend between $1.5 and $2.3 billion a year on fossil fuel, and 80% of those dollars go out into other states and other countries, and they leave the Vermont economy. The Essex Plan changes this equation since all of our electricity in Vermont is generated either in New England, New York, or Eastern Canada. The Essex Plan would localize about $1 billion in energy spending in the first decade, and that would keep more money circulating here in Vermont and promoting what we value, which is people, planet, and prosperity. And so let me finish with an invitation. We know this is going to be a tough conversation and a steep climb, but it's one that I think we need to have with our fellow Vermonters. It's critically important that Vermont continue to move forward in the realm of climate change. In fact, Vermonters across the state applauded when legislative leaders and our governor stood together last year and said, we will stand by our Paris climate goals. In order to do this, though, we need to actually have this conversation in the political arena. So in addition to being a business owner, I'm also a part-time legislator, and changing this part of Vermont's economy will not be easy. So this is an intriguing idea. It's going to be tough, but with the help of many of the business leaders who are here in this room, if you start stepping up, if you start speaking out, if you start reaching out to your legislator, we can have this conversation in Montpelier, and we can get this legislation passed. So I would urge you to send me or Dan or Jane a message if you'd like to connect with folks in Montpelier. I'd be happy to sit down with your representative and share a cup of coffee with you and your representative so that you can talk about the opportunities that are presented here. So thank you to VBSR for the great opportunity. Thank you for the legwork in helping to put this plan out there, and I look forward to taking it to the next step.